Would you believe me if I told you that I actually lost my job as a direct result of camping in the woods on public land on my own time after work? I don't know what else to say. It is a true story, apparently. And yeah, so I wasn't sure if I was going to make this video or not. It's a bit more of a stressful subject to talk about than the usual gold mining and stuff, but you'll see a little later in the video why I thought it was important to actually talk about something like this. Let's start out by just saying that I've been camping my entire life. It is a normal thing to do. It is a Canadian thing to do. And as far back as I can remember, I've been out with my parents camping in the woods by the sides of the river. It's camping. I am working for a company that contracts out to one of the big oil companies up one of those oil sand sites north of Fort McMurray. And it's a good job. I'm working with great people. Oil company, my company, awesome to work with. And we're staying at a camp called Wapasu. So this is like Civeo is a big multinational housing corporation. They kind of have the monopoly on accommodations in this area. There's nowhere else to stay. You stay at Civeo's Wapasu camp or nowhere at all. And it's not that bad of a camp. I've stayed in a few different types of camps up there. The food's half decent. There's a lot of variety. It's a camp. And I kind of wanted to show a different side of what it's like up there, because you're on this big open pit mine. There's a lot of nature to be seen. And then you get bused about half an hour to the actual camp. And it's just, it's bleak, right? So there are some people that walk around wearing shirts that will say curl correctional, indicating it's a bit of a prison, or it's referred to as Wapatraz by some people. And when I made a video about camping in the woods outside of Wapasu, I made sure not to use that type of language. I wanted to portray it in a good light. Basically, there's this incredible boreal forest up in northern Canada. It's really quite beautiful, and so much of your time up there is spent not seeing it. So I'm at home and I have to go up there to work, and I get stressed out to know that for the next 2 weeks, I don't get to go outside. I don't get to go camping. Nature is therapy to me, and I wanted to sort of present how beautiful it actually is up there. So you can go online, and there's different websites where people have, in the winter, they'll snowshoe down the cut blocks up there away from camp into the woods, not get fired for it. They're taking pictures of the northern lights, and it's pretty common for the guys who work for the big oil company up there they'll park their truck sort of halfway between the site and the camp. There's a lake, so people go fishing there. And I've overheard some guys up at work, people ask like, hey, can I go fishing after work? And the other person says, yeah, sure, why not? So what's really the risk? My position up there, just so you know what's going on, is I was a carpenter for a while with this company, and then moved up into the planning position. So I'm sort of a planner, scheduler, just arranging all the trades to get maintenance work done up on this site. And in that position, I work with some of the higher ups. So I don't know what these people do exactly, but they're like the department leads for the big oil company. And one of them saw my YouTube video about flying a small airplane across the Rocky Mountains with my brother. He's into aviation. He subscribed to my channel. So I know that there's some important people that are watching these videos, and I don't want to do anything like self-incriminating or too bad. But being that it's just camping, that like what possible risk could there be? I had a little bit of fun at the beginning of the video, sort of doing like a Steve Wallace camping with Steve style, like, all right, so let's sneak on into the woods. But there was no sneaking into the woods. I basically, after work, I had a small backpack with some really lightweight camping gear, just a hammock and a sleeping bag. It was the summer solstice, longest day of the year, and I was excited to go actually camping in the woods. When I left home, knowing that this was the plan, I was like, you know what? It's not going to be so bad for a couple weeks up there, because this type of thing, if I can start doing this type of thing up there, I'm going to look forward to it. It's just such a beautiful place, and I want to show a little more of the world, like what it can be like up there. So There's this lower fitness area from camp. It's a camp in the middle of nowhere. They bulldozed a bunch of trees all the way around it for fire protection. And then in this lower area, it's like an outdoor fitness area. There's a skating rink, some dumbbells, like chin-up bars. People go jogging around in this area. I'm standing in that area, and I basically crossed a gravel road into the woods. Ooh. But I did have a little bit of fun with that, being aware that some of these higher-ups were going to see the video and everything. But that was that. Went into the woods. I made sure not to bring any food or anything that would attract bears. I think I mentioned that in the video. I had some bear spray as a just in case. But really, like, I think part of the issue here was people thought that this was a very dangerous thing to go into the woods. And just as an analogy, people go surfing, somebody gets killed, eaten by a shark at that beach, and you go back a week later and everyone's surfing again. You're like, these guys are crazy risk takers. But statistically, globally, out of 8 billion people, there's less than 20 fatal shark attacks a year. It just doesn't usually happen. And so people realize you're way more likely to die driving to the beach than actually surfing with the sharks. With bears, it's very similar. Yes, they can be dangerous. Yes, they demand respect. But if you actually look up the stats yourself, there's between 1 and 2 bear fatalities per year in North America. Very dangerous, right? There is an order of magnitude greater chance of being struck and killed by lightning than to be attacked by a bear. Like, Google it. It's not a high risk activity, but the perception can be that way. And I was unaware at the time that one of those very rare bear deaths actually happened at a different oil sand site somewhere a couple years earlier. So maybe people are perceiving this as a much higher risk activity than it actually was. But to me, I'm just out camping in the woods. Yeah, so I made the video. It's not the best video in the world. It's kind of boring, but to me, it was kind of important because it was the longest day of the year. I was able to camp in a hammock, leave no trace style camping, very respectfully, no litter, all that kind of stuff. And I got to see, 11 p.m. it was still bright out. 4 a.m. the sun is rising. I got this beautiful shot of it was actually like the sunrise and a rainbow over camp.
There's actually a sunrise rainbow over camp right now.
And so I'm showing sort of the beauty of the area. And there's no rules about filming at camp. You are not allowed to film like the plant at the oil sand site, but camp, everyone can film. It's just a normal thing. And there's no rules stating you're not allowed to go into the woods. Like I said, like other people do this. It's sort of like a normal thing. But I guess they're not making YouTube videos about camping in the woods. Still not entirely sure what went wrong here. But I post the video. Everything's fine. I'm off work for 2 weeks. I was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And on my first day back to work, normally I have to be on site to work. But in this case, I had prearranged to be able to work from home for 6 days because I had a family vacation. So my first day of work from home, I open up my laptop, I go to my Zoom meeting in the morning, and the coordinator, real cool guy, he lives out on the island, awesome to work with, and he kind of just looks at me like, Kyle, what did you do, man? And I'm clueless at this point. I've heard nothing. I'm like, I don't, what are you talking about? He's like, your camping video. Everybody's talking about it. They're talking about banning you from camp. So that was a bit of a shocker. I'm like, okay, I didn't realize there was an issue with it. Nobody's like, okay, I'll take the video down if you think that'll help. And he's like, absolutely, yeah, take the video down. We should be able to go to bat for you for this. And essentially what happened, long story short, is the company I was working for, as well as the big oil company, to my knowledge, nobody there had an issue with this video. They're like, yeah, he's a good employee. We like working with him. Like, what's the big deal? However, it was Civeo Wapasu Lodge. They were the ones that had an issue. I never got to talk to anyone. Nobody ever spoke to me or asked me any questions. This was all happening behind the scenes while I'm sitting there getting a little stressed out about my job. And at the end of it all, it was, okay, you have received a lifetime ban from all Civeo camps across Alberta and BC. They have camps in the United States and in Australia as well. So this is like a pretty big hit to your career up there. If, there's a lot of places you can't work anymore if that happens. So I asked and I said, like, can I at least see sort of what the reasoning was? Is there an appeal process? There was an appeal process. I talked to my manager. He didn't feel comfortable actually giving me this information. So he talked to HR, and HR basically sent me, this was the conclusion to the investigation, as they called it, that came from Civeo. And it was one line that basically said, a guest went camping in the woods, made a YouTube video about it. This put themselves and others at risk due to attracting wildlife. We will not tolerate this type of behavior, and they're receiving a ban. So at the bottom of that, there's a link to an appeal process. I wrote an appeal, and I may actually copy paste that appeal letter in the description of this video if you're interested, sort of what I wrote. But it was essentially just like, sorry for, camping in the woods. I don't think this was really high risk activity. I was safe while doing it. I did it all responsibly. I left no litter. I didn't bring any food out, all this kind of stuff. And I CC'd some people in my company about this. And they're like, you know what, Kyle, you'll probably get to come back. It was a well-written appeal. You did take the video down as soon as you heard there was a problem, and you'll probably hear back. So I got the automated reply saying, we'll get back to you within 30 days with our answer. And they just never got back to me. So had somebody actually, contacted me and said, this is why we still think you're, not allowed to be here or something, that's one thing. I think if you're talking about like somebody's job, somebody's career, what they do to pay their mortgage and take care of their family, it's kind of low to just send an email about that. Like maybe you give somebody a call, but these guys didn't even reply to my appeal for this thing. So I sent a few follow-ups. I was trying to get in touch. And of course, during this time, I'm expecting that I'll be able to come back to work. So I'm not applying for EI. I'm not looking for work elsewhere. I'm just out money. And eventually I sort of just decided I'm going to talk to a lawyer about this because something seems wrong here. Just 30,000 foot view of the situation. You lost your job for camping in the woods. You were completely cooperative. There's an appeal process they just ignored. Like something's off. So I did go to a lawyer, and we wound up writing a letter to their corporate head office in Edmonton, and basically just saying nobody replied to the appeal. Let's talk to these guys. I'd like to get the ban from camp lifted, and potentially maybe you guys could actually pay me some damages here because the way you handled this, zero communication and completely arbitrarily just decided you're not allowed to go camping in the woods. Just when I say they arbitrarily decided this, there is a 4-page legal document you sign when you sign into camp. Read over the whole thing, and there is nowhere on that anything about leaving camp. Like, my personal time is not Civeo's jurisdiction. It's public land. I should be able to do what I want with my time. Apparently that's not the case, according to them. So I recently received a reply back from that. And what was kind of interesting is it's sort of like they're backpedaling a little bit. So there was 3 parts in their email back. And the first part said, at the beginning of the video, you said that you had talked to a variety of people and received a mixed bag of answers, basically making it seem like it was clearly obvious that I should never have gone camping in the woods, and I knew for a fact I was going to lose my job. Totally untrue. I thought that there was a slight chance that somebody would have an issue where they would say, Kyle, we don't want to encourage a bunch of people to go camping in the woods because not everyone's going to clean up after themselves. Maybe people will start bringing food out there, having campfires. We don't want to encourage that. Could you take the video down, please? And I would have. But I thought that was a low likelihood that they'd make me take the video down. I thought people would just not care. There was a 0% chance that I would lose my job over this in my mind. The second part, and this is where it gets kind of slimy, in my opinion. So they attached their lodge rules. Again, when you sign in, there's 4-page PDF document. And this document that they attached was a slightly different version of the document that everyone else gets when you sign into camp. So you sign into camp, the PDF attachment is titled something in 2016, whereas the one they sent to my lawyer was from 2015. And the 2015 one had a very specific line in it saying, you're not allowed to have any flammables like aerosols, potentially that the bear spray was a flammable aerosol. Of course, it doesn't say flammable on it. It has like antifreeze in it, like ethylene glycol. So if you heat that up and then vaporize it next to a flame, like you can, it is flammable, but is it any more flammable than like a polyester shirt? And basically the line that I get in the new rules from 2016 is like, don't put fabric softeners on your electric baseboard heater and don't have any candles or flammables in your room. So it was kind of interesting that they had specifically sort of changed the wording or conveniently found a document with different wording as like an intimidating letter back to my lawyer. Maybe they're just disorganized. That just seemed a little bit weird to me. And then the final part of their reply, this is where something was morally wrong about what's happening here. So now that head office sees this, maybe they're like, oh, you know, whoever up at camp decided to ban this guy, we might get in some trouble for this. Tell you what, we'll let you come back to camp. We'll lift the ban, providing that you essentially sign a gag order. You can't take this to the media, you cannot post about this on social media, and you can never repost the original video. But we're not going to pay for any damages whatsoever. Now let's be real. I need to pay my bills. Had they offered like, hey, listen, we screwed you around. There was a 30-day period there where you clearly thought that you could have a job, and we just never replied, and we just ignored our own appeal process. We'll cover some damages for that. I might look at that and be like, that's awfully tempting. Maybe a little bit of money, I'll keep my mouth shut. But just to be able to go back up there, like, I don't think I would feel safe working there anymore. And what I mean by that, I'm not going to get beat up in a dark alleyway. But if they can just arbitrarily choose to be like, we don't like the shirt this guy's wearing, we can kick him out of camp. So long as it doesn't break any like human rights rules, like discrimination or something like that. Like if somebody has it out for me, like that's the troublemaker that went camping in the woods and then like got a legal letter sent to us, and I could work on rebuilding my career there and moving up, and then just gone like that for doing nothing. And that's just not cool. And then there's the other side of it, which is I will be okay. I'm not sitting here looking for pity. I don't want your donations to my Patreon account or anything like that. It's, if this happened to somebody else, I would be bothered by that. If I saw this happen to somebody else, I would want to stand up for that. I would say this is wrong and this is an overreaction. Like the punishment should be matching to the crime, so to speak. You never gave this guy any opportunity to be heard. It's like, I don't know whether this is, wrongful interference with employment under tort law, or if this is like, the rules of natural justice. Like there was no hearing. There was no communication back and forth, no warnings, no nothing. And there's no written rules. Like they have a duty of care to the people staying in that camp who are there to work and have careers to communicate what you are and are not allowed to do. And they never did that. So if this happened to somebody else and I had the opportunity to just be like, oh yeah, let's just cover this up. I mean, I don't know that this video is going to result in any change, but staying quiet definitely would result in no change. So the situation up there is one camp has this monopoly. You have to stay in that camp if you're going to work there. It is wrong for this company to have such an imbalance of power between the employee and what's going on in the company. Not to mention, when I was first processing this in my head and started texting my friends, like, wow, this has just happened in my life. One of the first replies I got back was, wow, you must have a really crappy union. And I'm like, I'm not in a union. So I don't know if that is something that needs to happen. If you Google this company, there's a lot of sort of negative press out there about Civeo Again, I have nothing but good things to say about the people I worked with, both at my company and the oil company. But there was this article about like the people at the front desk, due to just breathing diesel fumes from all the idling buses coming in for months and months. They had just uncontrollable coughing. They were going to the doctor to get like stuff to fix that and skin problems, and they were not really treated or taken seriously. And there's a lot of people who have sort of negative things to say about Civeo as an employer. And whatever's going on here, I think they're kind of able to get away with stuff like, hey, this guy made a video, we don't like him or we don't like what he did, and for no reason, we're just going to arbitrarily decide what gets to happen. And they ended my career over nothing, in my opinion. So if this has any potential positive effect, or if somebody else who's in a similar situation just uses this as like moral support or something, I don't know where to go from here. My intention is to take this to court. I do not want to commit any more time or resources legally to pursuing this until next year. I have bigger fish to fry. I have a mortgage to pay. I have my mental health to consider. And so I'm putting this on hold for now, but my intention is that I will be taking this to court and asking for damages, because I essentially lost my job, time off work, the period of time when they said they'd get back to me in 30 days, but didn't. And it just seems like morally bankrupt, this whole situation. It bothers me. And of course, I'm, personally, I'm emotionally connected to the case. But yeah, what can this video do to you guys watching? In the comments below, like, kind of let me know what you think here. If anyone has a similar experience, maybe not camping got you fired, but, and I guess I didn't get fired. I got banned from camp and all camps. And so then they had to lay me off because I was unable to work there and everything. But like, am I off base here? Did I do something really terrible? or is this as ridiculous as it seems to me, that I lost my job for camping in the woods on my own time on public land? I might not reply to comments on this video just for my own mental health. I'll step away, but I will read all of your comments. So please write those below. You can contact me at my channel's email address, utmostoutdoors@gmail.com. What's next that's for another video, typically gold mining, camping, stuff like that. If you are here new just for this video and you want to support my situation, best way to do that, give the video a thumbs up. Maybe go watch some of my other videos, and if you like them, consider subscribing to the channel. Eventually, maybe YouTube actually makes me enough money that I can pay some of my bills with YouTube and do that full time. That would be cool. But I mean, really, I don't know what else to say. Life happens, and it's time to move on for now. So until the next video, cheers, and thanks for watching. I guess that's it. And of course, if you're curious and you want to see the original video I posted that lost me my job, you can click it right here on this end screen.